analyzed the Clinton speech last week that he made at the convention. And just to start everything off, there are 23 million Americans still out of work, but we have 145,000 more federal employees. President Clinton, made a statement that no president, nobody, including himself, could have fixed the economy in 4 years. And you can refer to this Lou Dobbs report. There's one called Economic Accomplishments in Reagan's First Term. And when you go in, remember back in 1980, and there's some people in here, quite a few of us actually remember 1980. There's a few of you that don't probably, but basically in 1980 when Reagan was running for office, the prime interest rate was 15.5%. Today it's about 1.5 to 2%. The inflation rate was 13%. Today it's not even registering on the Richter scale. The unemployment rate when he was campaigning was 7.5%, and by the time he took office, actually at the end of his first term, because of a very severe recession, in January of 1984, it was 10.4%. But by then he also had a new Congress in place, and he was able to get some things passed. And Tip O'Neill and the congressmen there, both Democrats and Republicans, working together, and within 9 months they brought that unemployment rate down to 7%. In 1984, our gross domestic product growth was 7.2%. Ours right now is 1% or thereabout, barely registering at all. And in 2012, in the last 3.5 years, we've had no more than 1.5, 2% per year. And why is that? Because of the policies of the Democratic Party and this president in particular, who spends half of his time, he's not playing golf, dividing America on class lines or racial lines or some other lines. By 1987, after his first term, Reagan had produced over 600,000 new business and corporations, and the largest net increase in after-tax income in the average American's household since World War II. So it can be done. We don't need excuses. We need people who will get results. When they tell you, well, nobody could have fixed this, that's simply not true. It can be done. But you have to know how to do it, be willing to listen and work with other people. When Obama came into office, the unemployment rate was 7.8%. The August 2012 official rate is 8.3%. The actual rate, if you count everybody who's been trying to get work and basically gave up, is between 11.2 and 11.4. And there are places in California where it's 40%, especially in the valley. It's disgusting, the kind of things that are happening right now. 43 quarters, economic quarters, with unemployment above 8%. 29 months. He claims that 4.5 million jobs were created or saved. I'm not sure how you do that. He never really explains what it means. I guess it can mean anything he wants. But the job growth was less than population growth. So that declined 316,000 jobs since 2009. It's not going to be fixed. The economy will not be fixed by more spending. It's not going to be fixed by just cutting the budgets. You've got to do a lot more than that. First thing you got to do is you got to create confidence in the business community, and you do not do that by constantly tearing down business people, pointing fingers, and trying to demonize people who are trying to create something, whether it's jobs or a product, and sell it to the American people or sell it to someone else in the world. It requires a fundamental belief in America and the American free enterprise system, which this president does not have. If you have any doubts about that, you can look at Dinesh D'Souza's books, The Roots of Obama's Rage or Obama's America, or go see the movie 2016 if you have not. And there's also an article in last week's Investors Business Daily, Why This President Hates America or Hates American Business, and they go through and they outline the movie 2016 as well. The first thing we have to do is stop dividing Americans on the basis of race, gender, and economic class. We need to free up the fossil fuel industry. There's $2 trillion in potential royalties in the American soil waiting to be taken out, which will create anywhere initially 300,000 to 750,000 jobs and then some. We need to rein in the federal regulatory agencies which are trying to shut the energy industry down as well as every other industry. And we've got to control federal spending. Now, when I first addressed the Tea Party in the spring of 2009, at your first rally at Sunken Gardens, I described physically what $1 trillion would look like. Because at that time our debt was $5 trillion and Obama had just proposed spending $1 trillion with a stimulus plan and a few other things in his first months in office. And when I described it, I basically said it's about as big as this whole, $1 billion is the size of a school bus. If you stack all those bills up, $100 bills, and stuff them in there, you put $1 billion in a suitcase, but $1 billion would fit in a school bus. $1 trillion would be to the height of 10 feet and would cover the entire Sunken Gardens from one end to the other. Well, last week we went over $16 trillion in our national debt. $6 trillion since this president came in less than 4 years. more debt acquired than all the presidents combined since George Washington took office. We've got to get things under control, and this president won't do it. He's going to destroy the country. We've got to address long-term entitlements. We've got to make some really tough decisions about how we're going to do it. I'm not going to go into some of that stuff, but within about 6 years, 100% of all government receipts are going to pay for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the interest on the debt. The interest on the debt is going to be $800 billion a year, and you're looking at a return of tax rates, federal tax rates of 70 to 90%, World War II rates on the highest incomes. But everybody's incomes are going to be taxed at a rate of at least 60% to go to the federal government. And I don't care how much money you make, because there's no other way to pay the bills. And if you don't do that, everything you get beyond paying for those 4 things I mentioned will be borrowed money, and it's going to be borrowed from China, assuming they'll still buy our treasury bonds. I don't think they will. There's some things that Obama's doing on national defense that are downright scary. I spent 37 years in uniform. I served in 3 wars. I grew up on a military base with Strategic Air Command with my father. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, B-52s were taking off, flying over my house every couple of minutes. And the first time in my life I saw my dad really scared, because we were literally in ground zero. This president has made the decision to surrender air superiority. We have not failed to have air superiority in any battlefield we've been in since 1941 and early 42. That's the last time that this country was not able to dominate the air in any battlefield. He is systematically dismantling our strategic missile defenses by taking down radars. People think, oh, we can shoot them down. Well, we cannot, because we don't have it, and he's not building it, and he's dismantling it. Most importantly, he's dismantling our strategic nuclear deterrent. Right now, there's about 5,000 nuclear warheads. Treaties are bringing it down to 1,500. He wants to bring it down to 300. He talks about a nuclear-free world. It isn't going to exist. But what is going to happen, we used to have targeting problems that to take out the United States with our 5,000 warheads, you had to take out 450 different targets with at least 3 warheads each. He's reducing it down to just 6 targets. 18 warheads would destroy the entire nuclear capability of the United States. And once he does this, even without a nuclear attack, once you take them down to those levels, you're not going to be able to build them back up again, for the simple reason that, one, those scientists and engineers are going to be gone, and the ability to do it, those highly technical things that you do, are not going to be there. But worst of all, Russia and China are not agreeing to this. So he's bringing us down to a level of nuclear deterrence that Pakistan currently has, or India. We will not be any stronger than any 2-bit, third-rate nation on the other side of the planet. Now, I'm not saying it about India, but I am saying it about Pakistan. You can quote me from that. I'm not in the Army, so I can say it. But the bottom line is that even if we wanted to rebuild, if we had Mr. Romney in there as president, if we go down to these levels, the Russians and the Chinese will probably say, if you rebuild, we will consider that an act of war. We're not going to let you do it. We will never again achieve the nuclear superiority and the strategic status that we have in the world today. We will become a third-rate military power and a third-rate economic power. The United States will be a third-rate nation in the world, and that's where this president is taking us. The Navy is going to the lowest levels of ships since before the First World War under his plans. The Air Force will be cut between 1/3 and 1/2, and the military, the Army, the ground forces, the Marines will not be able to respond to any conventional contingency anywhere in the world. So if the Chinese decide to take Taiwan by force, if North Korea decides to take South Korea by force, we won't be able to stop them, let alone defend Israel or anything else. We've never been in that position, which means other countries are going to pursue nuclear weapons. This president is making us safe for nuclear war, or war on a global scale, since we haven't seen since the Second World War. Energy policy, he says all of the above. It's actually none of the above. He's put 85% of the fossil fuels in this country off limits. And it's getting worse. We will not survive as a nation 4 more years of President Obama if we don't defeat him. And his attitude is best described, I think, not just by the movies, but what he did in his first 4 months, what he really believes about America, when he went around the world apologizing for America. That made me sick to my stomach. Now they're trying to say he didn't do it. But he did bow before the king of Saudi Arabia. No American president ever has bowed before a king. Not the King of England, not the Queen of England, not anyone, anywhere. Never. But he did. He bowed to the Emperor of Japan. He bowed to the Chinese communist leader. He bowed before the president of Mexico. He bowed before the Turkish parliament. And he apologized for American troops and American things we've done around the world. This president is not like any president that I can remember any time in history. And he is a very frightening individual to me and to many others that have served and continue to serve. So just ask you, I know we can't do much about it in California. We're kind of out of the play. We know people out in other states, especially back east. Write them, call them, persuade them. Do what you can, because time is running out. We have less than 60 days to the election. We can do some things. We've got to keep the House. Hopefully we'll gain the Senate. But do what you can do, however little that may be. Everything you do matters.